I thought my life was perfect. A beautiful wife, a successful business, a cozy home. Until that Friday evening, when a simple, unexpected visit to the gym destroyed everything I considered mine. One lie led to another. One secret revealed many others. At some point, I just disappeared, and then reappeared when everything was ready. I appeared dramatically, like a ghost out of nowhere. I caught them red-handed. And in the end, I left her with nothing. And when we met for the last time, she was shocked by what I had done. But let's go back to the beginning of the story. On a regular Friday evening, I decided to do something different. My name's Eiman. I'm 42 years old. I run my own equipment business, forklifts, tools, heavy stuff. I had 7 stores across the city and 8 more in other states. It's a good living. My wife, Christina, she's 32. Beautiful, charming, always the center of attention when she walks into a room. She's the type that knows she's beautiful and knows how to use it too. We've been married for a little over 3 years. Christina didn't work. She stayed home, cooked now and then, kept herself busy with hobbies and, well, the gym. 3 times a week without fail, she'd tell me. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Always at the same fancy fitness center about 20 minutes from our house. I never questioned it. I trusted her. Hell, why wouldn't I? That night, though, I don't know what got into me. Maybe it was intuition. I finished a few calls for work, grabbed my keys, and decided I'd surprise her. Pick her up like a gentleman. Maybe grab some ice cream on the way home. Have one of those simple, happy nights married couples are supposed to have. I pulled up to the gym parking lot about 10 minutes before she usually left. I parked near the entrance where I'd see everyone coming out. I sat there in my truck, engine running, feeling a little foolish at first. Watching people come and go. It felt normal, harmless. After a few minutes, I figured, why not give her a call? Maybe I'd catch her just wrapping up. I pulled my phone out, hit her contact. She picked up. "Oh, hey babe," she said, sounding cheerful but slightly rushed. "I'm almost done. I'll be home soon, honey." I smiled to myself. Perfect timing. "Okay, no rush," I said. "Take your time." She laughed a little and said she'd see me at home. I hung up and leaned back in my seat, feeling kind of pleased with myself. I imagined her surprise when she walked out and saw me waiting there. Except, time passed. 10 minutes. 15. 20. People trickled out of the gym. Groups got smaller. Fewer cars remained. The sun dipped lower. Streetlights flickered on. No Christina. I sat up straighter, scanning every woman that came through the door. But no tall brunette in black leggings and that little pink tank top she loved to wear. No Christina, period. I told myself maybe she was finishing up in the locker room. Maybe chatting with a friend. Maybe stuck on the treadmill finishing her run. Normal stuff, right? I waited. Another 10 minutes. The gym staff started mopping the floors inside. One guy flipped the open sign to closed. A few more people left. I sat there, heart beating a little faster now. Finally, a woman in a hoodie came out and pulled the door shut behind her. She locked it, turned off the lights. The building went dark. No more music thumping through the glass. No more chatter. It was over. Gym closed. And still no Christina. I can't even describe the feeling that hit me in that moment. A sort of cold, hollow punch right in my gut. It was like the ground under me cracked a little bit, just enough to make me stumble without falling all the way down. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No texts. I stayed there another 10 minutes, just to be sure. Watching the empty parking lot, the way the breeze nudged some old fast food bag across the pavement. Listening to the faint buzz of the streetlights. It felt like the whole world had gone still, except for the sound of my own breathing. No Christina. No nothing. I started the engine. The roar of it sounded too loud in the quiet night. I didn't call her again. I didn't drive around looking for her. I didn't yell or cry or blow up her phone. Something had changed. I wasn't sure what yet, but deep down, I knew my marriage wasn't what I thought it was. And Christina, well, she wasn't the woman I thought she was either. Still, when I pulled out of the lot and headed home, I kept my face calm, my voice even. I walked in the front door like nothing happened. I kissed her cheek when she greeted me, fake tired and fake sweaty. I sat at the table while she reheated some spaghetti and asked me about my day. And I smiled. I smiled because now I was the one with the secret. 2 days after the night at the gym, after that empty parking lot and locked doors, I decided I wasn't going to sit around hoping things made sense. I needed to know for sure what was happening. No more trusting blindly. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt just because it was easier. Christina told me at breakfast that morning she was going to the gym again. Same time, same place. Her words slid out real smooth, casual-like, while she sipped her coffee and flipped through her phone like it was just another normal day. You know, I might stay a little longer today. Maybe do some extra cardio, she said, not even looking at me. I just nodded and smiled. But inside, I was already planning my move. That afternoon, I finished my meetings early. I told my team I had personal errands to run. I kept it vague. Nobody asked questions. By the time the sun was low and casting long shadows over the city, I was already parked around the corner from the gym, tucked behind a big delivery truck, keeping my truck out of sight. Engine off. Windows cracked. Sitting there, watching, waiting. I checked my watch. She should be finishing up in about 15 minutes. The gym entrance was busy, just like before. People coming and going, laughing, hustling out to their cars. I kept my head low but my eyes sharp, watching every woman who came through those double doors. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Finally, my phone buzzed in my lap. It was Christina. I picked up. Hey babe, she said, sounding bubbly. I'm leaving now. I love you. I could practically hear her smile through the phone. Love you too, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I leaned forward, both hands gripping the steering wheel now, staring at that front door like my life depended on it. And then there she was, Christina, wearing her favorite black leggings, a tight light blue zip-up hoodie, hair pulled back in a high ponytail. From a distance, she looked like every other gym-goer leaving after a hard workout. Christina strutted right past the parking lot, head held high, not a care in the world. And then a taxi pulled up at the curb. I blinked. For a moment, I actually froze, watching the cab's taillights disappear into traffic. Then instinct kicked in. I started my truck and eased out behind them, keeping 2-3 cars between us. I didn't want to spook her. I tailed them through the city like I was in one of those old detective movies my dad used to watch, white-knuckled, heart-hammering, keeping my distance at every light, every turn. My mind raced the whole time. Where was she going? Who was she meeting? Was I about to see something that would change everything? The taxi weaved through a couple neighborhoods, then finally pulled into a small grocery store lot. Christina got out, holding her gym bag casually, and walked straight inside. I parked across the street and just sat there, heart pounding. About 20 minutes later, she came out with a few bags of groceries, flagged down another taxi, and headed home. I followed again. When she pulled up at the house, I drove past and looped around so I wouldn't look suspicious. When I finally got home, she was already there, standing in the kitchen, unpacking groceries, humming some mindless pop song under her breath. When she saw me walk in, she smiled like sunshine. How was your day, honey? She asked brightly, glancing over her shoulder. Fine, I said. My voice sounded foreign even to my own ears. And Christina? She just kept humming, unpacking, moving around like nothing was wrong. After dinner, she curled up on the couch with a book while I sat at the table pretending to work on some spreadsheets. I kept sneaking glances at her. And then the doubt crept in. Maybe she had just needed to grab groceries. Maybe she'd planned to work out but changed her mind. Maybe. But then something stubborn inside me, that cold, hard knot that had started growing 2 nights ago, reminded me that it wasn't just one thing. It was everything. The way she'd been distant lately. The way she'd smiled when she said she was almost done at the gym that night she never even showed up. I knew better than to second-guess myself. I decided I'd give it one more shot. One more quiet watch from the shadows. One more chance for her to prove me wrong. And if she lied again, if she disappeared into the night instead of doing what she claimed, well, then I'd know for sure. After that second night of sitting in my truck, watching her jump into a taxi like it was nothing, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep doing this myself. I had a business to run. I needed help. Real help. So, the next morning, before Christina even woke up, I made some calls. I asked around, quietly, and got a name from a buddy who had used him during a nasty divorce. Carl. Carl looked like he belonged in an old-school action movie. Big guy, weathered face, clean-cut but rough around the edges. When I met him at a diner on the edge of town, he was already halfway through a plate of bacon and eggs. He stood when I approached, shook my hand with a firm grip. You Eiman? He asked, voice low, steady. Yeah, I said. You Carl. He nodded and motioned for me to sit. I slid into the booth and pulled a folder out of my bag. Inside was everything he needed. A couple of pictures of Christina, her basic schedule, addresses she frequented, the gym location, and notes about her so-called workouts. Carl listened, barely touching his food as I talked. When I finished, he leaned back, looked at me over steepled fingers, and said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I met his eyes without flinching. "Yes, I'm sure." Carl nodded once, slow and deliberate. "All right then," he said. "I'll handle it. You just sit tight." I handed him the envelope of cash I brought and walked out of that diner feeling heavier, but also a little lighter. If that makes sense. I wasn't proud that it had come to this. But there's only so much a man can swallow before he chokes. The next few days crawled by. I buried myself in work, took a few out-of-town meetings just to stay busy. Christina floated around the house like nothing was wrong, humming songs, showing me dumb videos on her phone, asking if I wanted to join her at the gym one day. I smiled and told her I had too much work. She smiled back, all sweet and pretty, and left for her workout. Meanwhile, Carl was out there, shadowing her, piecing together the puzzle I couldn't. Every night, around 9, Carl would send me a short, dry update. Followed subject from home to gym. Stayed 90 minutes. Left gym. No unusual activity. Subject visited grocery store. Lunch with female friend. No male contact. Subject went shopping. Returned home alone. Nothing suspicious. It was almost enough to make a man doubt himself. Almost. Until day 5. That evening, I was sitting on my back porch, drinking a cold beer and trying not to think too much, when my phone buzzed again. It was Carl. Shorter message than usual. "You need to call me." My heart jumped into my throat. I dialed his number, my hands cold even though the night was warm. Carl picked up. "She didn't go to the gym today," he said, straight to the point. "She went somewhere else." I sat up straighter. "Where?" I asked. "Upscale residential tower. Looks like apartments, maybe condos. Security gate, card access, private parking underground. She went in on foot. No gym bag. Stayed a little over an hour and a half." "She leave alone?" I asked. "Yeah," Carl said. "Took a taxi home. Same routine as if she'd been at the gym. Looked relaxed. Calm. Like nothing was out of the ordinary." I swallowed hard. "You get pictures?" "Of course," Carl said, like it wasn't even a question. Later that night, he sent them to me. There she was, in her blue hoodie and black leggings, standing outside the polished glass entrance of some fancy building I'd never even noticed before. In one shot, she was checking her phone. In another, she was chatting with the doorman, laughing. Then she disappeared inside. When she finally came out, she wasn't sweaty. She wasn't tired. She didn't have that, just worked out, glow she always faked when she got home. She looked fresh, polished, like she'd just had a massage or a spa treatment. And when she got back home, she acted like she'd spent the last 2 hours pushing weights and running miles. Same routine. Same stories about how exhausted she was from cardio. I watched her that night across the dinner table as she twirled spaghetti on her fork, babbling about how she needed new sneakers soon because her training was getting so intense. She didn't have a clue. Not one damn clue. She had no idea I knew. No idea I'd stopped trusting her. No idea that her lies were starting to crack and crumble. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because now I understood something very important. This wasn't just a hunch. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't some little harmless secret. Something real was going on behind my back. And soon enough, I was going to find out exactly what it was. After Carl caught Christina sneaking into that fancy building instead of going to the gym, I knew there was more hiding under the surface. A lot more. I told Carl to keep watching her. I wanted the whole picture before I made a move. He agreed. Carl wasn't the type to get sloppy. He was patient, careful, and so was I. The first week after that, things at home were almost too perfect. Christina acted like the perfect wife. She cooked my favorite meals, pot roast, meatloaf, baked chicken with rosemary. She sat across from me at dinner, smiling wide, laughing at all the right moments, asking about my work, nodding like she cared. For days after the first building incident, she hit a hotel. Nice place. One of those sleek new ones just off the highway, the kind with too much glass and trendy furniture in the lobby. Carl caught her walking through the automatic doors in broad daylight, wearing casual clothes, carrying that same little gym bag she always did. She walked in alone, stayed about an hour and a half, came out alone, took a taxi home. No sign of anyone with her. No touching, no sneaking glances, no hand-holding. Just Christina, alone, casual, like she had just finished a coffee meeting or a quick shopping trip. The second visit came the next week. Different hotel, same story. This one was downtown, wedged between two office buildings. Again, Carl followed her in, watched her through the lobby windows. Alone. Stayed 2 hours this time. Came out looking fresh-faced and relaxed. Took a taxi. Home in time for dinner. When I walked in that night, there she was at the stove, humming some old country song, apron tied around her waist. "Hey, honey," she called over her shoulder, flipping a pork chop. "You're just in time." I forced a smile. "Smells great," I said. Inside, though, something was rotting. Something deep and ugly. The third hotel visit happened less than a week later. Same pattern. Different location. This hotel was a little seedier, more on the outskirts of town, away from the downtown glitz. Fewer business people, more travelers just passing through. Carl said she seemed more cautious this time. Kept looking over her shoulder. Pulled her hoodie up over her hair. But still, no man. No companion. No obvious smoking gun. Just Christina, in and out, alone. At home that night, she curled up next to me on the couch like everything was fine. Laid her head on my shoulder. Told me she missed me when I was at work all day. I sat there stiff as a board, my heart hammering inside my ribs, fighting the urge to shove her away. She was lying. I knew it. But we both played our parts. At this point, I was so twisted up inside I couldn't see straight. Every instinct in my body screamed that she wasn't alone inside those walls. That someone was meeting her behind closed doors. Someone was laughing with her, touching her, making promises she used to make to me. But all we had were pictures of her walking in alone. Walking out alone. No smoking gun. No undeniable evidence. Nothing I could take to a courtroom. Nothing I could throw in her face and watch her squirm. And Christina? At home, she just got sweeter. "Love you, babe," scribbled on a sticky note stuck to my sandwich. Every night, I laid in bed next to her, staring up at the ceiling, pretending I was dead tired, pretending I didn't feel the mattress dip under her when she slid closer, pretending I didn't notice when she rested her hand on my chest. I pretended a lot of things. Pretended so well, I almost convinced myself. But underneath it all, the anger was building. Slow and steady. A river cutting through stone. I knew now there was no fixing this. No patching it up. No talking it out. Christina wasn't my wife anymore. Not the way she used to be. Not the way a real wife should be. And sooner or later, she was going to find out just how much damage she had done. By the end of the third week, I was running on fumes. I knew I couldn't keep living like that. So I decided to change the plan. No more waiting for her to trip up. No more second-guessing. No more sitting at the same table with a woman who wore betrayal like it was perfume. It was time for me to disappear. I picked my moment carefully. Christina's training session was scheduled for Wednesday evening. Same as usual. After she left, I arrived home and got down to business. Not angry. Not even sad anymore. Just done. I grabbed the suitcase I'd hidden in the back of the closet a week earlier. Threw in my essentials, a few changes of clothes, my laptop, important documents, a framed picture of my late parents, the one I kept on my dresser. Then the cash, about $8,000 I had slowly been withdrawing from our joint account in small amounts so she wouldn't notice. Stuffed it all into an envelope and tucked it deep into my bag. Next, I logged into the bank from my laptop. 2 clicks. Blocked the joint accounts. Changed all passwords. Moved my personal savings to a separate, private account she didn't even know existed. Then the phone. I had bought a new number under a different name. New number? Only 2 people had it. Carl, my private investigator, and Jason, my right-hand man at the company, the only person I trusted to handle business while I vanished. I packed up everything I needed. Took one last walk through the house. The walls looked different now. Cold, like they belonged to strangers. The furniture we picked out together. The wedding photo over the mantel. I didn't feel a thing. By the time the sun was setting, I was already on the highway, truck loaded up, heading west toward one of my company's smaller branches in another state. 6-hour drive, give or take. I didn't call anyone. Didn't leave a note. Didn't tell a soul except Jason and Carl. As far as the rest of the world knew, Eiman was off on a business trip abroad. Chasing new suppliers, scouting new territories, doing what businessmen do. The next morning, I rented a furnished apartment outside a small city. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet place with a kitchen that smelled like lemons and a balcony that overlooked a line of oak trees. I set up a little desk in the corner. Got internet hooked up. Started checking in remotely with Jason at the main office. Meanwhile, Carl kept sending me updates. Every night like clockwork, a text would come in. Subject arrived home. Discovered house empty. Attempted contact with employer. Or subject visited location A, location B. Returned home alone. No unusual behavior. Carl even snapped a few photos of Christina pounding on the locked doors of my main office one afternoon, her hair wild, her face flushed red with panic. The employees? They all shrugged. We don't know when he'll be back. He's overseas on business. She went to 3 of my stores the next day. Same story. She tried to call, but to no avail. I imagined her face, frowning at the screen, feeling the first real stirrings of fear. The realization that her safety net, me, might be gone for good. Sweet, sweet chaos. Christina tried everything. She emailed me, messaged me on social media, all saying the same thing. Where are you? I'm worried. Please call me. Worried. Funny, coming from a woman who had spent the last month carrying on God knows what behind my back. Meanwhile, I sat 2 states away, eating takeout on my new balcony, watching the wind sway the trees, feeling more peaceful than I had in months. Carl kept the reports coming. Subject stayed home. Subject visited gym. Subject took taxi to shopping mall. No contact with third parties observed. She could tell herself whatever she wanted, that maybe I was just busy. She could believe all of it if she wanted. It didn't matter anymore. Because I was already gone. Gone in every way that counted. And there wasn't a damn thing she could do to change that. The longer I stayed gone, the harder Christina seemed to spin her wheels. Carl kept me updated like clockwork. Every evening around 9 p.m., my phone would buzz, and there it was, another neat, emotionless report. Where she went, how long she stayed, who she talked to. Always the same pattern. The gym, the grocery store, back home. But after the first couple of weeks, something shifted. Carl's messages started getting longer. He mentioned she was getting more restless, spending more time standing around after her workouts, fiddling with her phone, looking like she was waiting for someone. Then she started showing up at that same upscale apartment complex again. The one where she spent her gym time once before. Carl caught her sneaking in 3 separate times over a 10-day stretch. Every time, she wore her workout gear like she was keeping up appearances. But there was no gym bag slung over her shoulder anymore. No water bottle. Just Christina, walking fast, head down, punching in a security code like she knew it by heart. She thought nobody was watching. She thought she'd gotten away with it. And for a while, it looked like she had. Every time she left the building, she walked out alone. Took a taxi. Went home. At the house, Carl said she moved like a ghost. No spring in her step. No hums in the kitchen. No pretend texts to a friend she could fake a story around. She was unraveling, slowly and beautifully. And then came the night everything cracked wide open. Carl's text buzzed in while I was drinking coffee on the balcony, watching the stars blink awake. The subject left the hall at 5:41 p.m. A man arrived in a car at 7:02 p.m. They left. They drove to your house. He parked around the corner. At that point, I realized it was time to go back. I stared at the screen, not moving. Brady Wilson. One of my own damn managers. 28 years old, cocky as hell, fresh out of business school and thought he was God's gift to logistics. Christina had met him at a company Christmas party once. I remembered how she'd giggled at his dumb jokes, how she leaned a little closer when she laughed. At the time, I'd brushed it off. Now it all made perfect sense. I stared at those pictures for a long time, feeling the anger simmer in my chest. Not white-hot rage. Not explosive fury. Something colder. Heavier. More patient. I didn't smash my coffee cup. I didn't punch a wall. I just sat there, feeling that hard knot inside me settle into something solid. They thought they were clever, apparently. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the first real smile tug at my mouth in weeks. She was doing exactly what I needed her to do. Making her own news, one sneaky meeting at a time. Every visit. Every secret taxi ride. Every text she thought nobody could see. Carl was building a mountain of evidence, one photo at a time. The next day, I headed back to my hometown. Early in the morning, I got a message from Carl saying that Brady had just left. I rented an apartment on the other side of town and continued to wait. The next few days passed slow and steady. Carl kept his distance, kept snapping pictures, kept cataloging every move. Christina kept going to her gym sessions, kept sneaking around like a teenager breaking curfew. Carl captured all of it. Timestamps, locations, photos. By the end of the week, I had enough data to fill a small filing cabinet. And Christina? She still had no idea. Still thought she was smarter. Still thought she was getting away with it. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed as I was leaving the office. It was Carl. I answered quick, stepping outside where no one could hear. "They're at your place, Eiman," he said, voice low and steady. She left her gym session. Brady picked her up. They're parked around the corner now. I leaned against the wall, feeling the blood thrum behind my ears. I pinched the bridge of my nose, thinking fast. Timing had to be perfect. I needed it all on camera, undeniable, clean. So I decided to wait. By the time I pulled into the neighborhood, it was deep into the night. Most of the houses were dark. Porch lights flickered here and there, but the street was quiet, peaceful. Too peaceful. I killed the engine halfway down the street and coasted into a spot where the truck wouldn't catch any attention. Heart hammering, I slid out, phone gripped tight in my hand, camera app already open. I crept along the sidewalk, sticking to the shadows. The house loomed ahead, dark and still. But upstairs, faint light leaked through the curtains. The bedroom. Our bedroom. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I waited in the bushes across the street for what felt like an eternity, watching. Finally, the light dimmed. Not completely off, just low enough to tell me they were settling in. I crossed the street, heart pounding, ears tuned to every little noise. The front door was still the same. I still had my key. I slid it into the lock, turned it slow. The door creaked open. I entered, closing the door silently behind me. The house smelled the same. Faint traces of Christina's favorite vanilla candle, mixed with something else. Something wrong. I crept up the stairs, every step burning under my feet. Halfway up, I paused, hearing the low murmur of voices from the bedroom. I forced myself to breathe slow and even. This was it. No turning back. At the top of the stairs, I lifted my phone, hit record. The bedroom door was ajar just enough. I pushed it open, slow and steady. And there they were. Christina, tangled up with Brady, both of them half covered by the sheets, frozen mid-laugh, faces pale as chalk when they saw me standing there. I didn't say a word. I just kept the camera rolling, framing them perfectly in the shot. Brady scrambled like a scared animal, grabbing for his clothes. Christina screamed, yanking the sheet higher, her face twisting into something ugly. Brady tried to stumble past me, half-dressed, his shoes clutched under one arm. I stepped aside just a little, and then, maybe on accident, maybe not, I bumped him hard enough with my shoulder that he lost his footing. He tumbled down the stairs like a sack of laundry, hitting every step with a satisfying thud. He hit the bottom hard, but scrambled up, yanking open the door and bolting into the night without looking back. Upstairs, Christina was wailing, sobbing, trying to pull the blanket tighter around her. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't throw anything. I just pulled a folded envelope from my back pocket. The court summons. I tossed it onto the bed like it was a piece of trash. It landed right beside her, flapping open enough for her to see the bold letters. "See you in court, sweetheart," I said, my voice flat, calm, almost bored. Her mouth open like she wanted to say something, to beg, to spin some pathetic lie. But I was already walking away. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a last glance. I walked down the stairs, past the rumpled pile of clothes Brady had dropped in his panic, past the photo of our wedding day hanging crooked on the wall. I stepped into the night, the door clicking shut behind me, and breathed in the cool air. The stars looked a little sharper that night, the world a little cleaner. I climbed into my truck, tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, and drove away without looking back once. It was over. The games, the lies, everything. There was just over a month left before our court date. I didn't waste time. The very next morning, Brady's career came to an abrupt end. I called Jason, my second in command, told him everything he needed to know. Brady was fired before noon. Not a gentle parting, either. No severance, no recommendation letter, nothing. Instead, I personally signed off on a detailed explanation sent to every HR department that called after him. Serious breach of company ethics and trust. Good luck landing another good job after that, kid. As for Christina, she stayed in the house. I didn't bother showing up again. I had already rented a quiet apartment across town, nothing fancy, but clean, private, and mine. She barely left the house except for the occasional trip to the grocery store or the post office. I heard through the grapevine that her parents started sending her money, Just enough to cover groceries and bills. Nothing extra. No shopping sprees. No spa days. No fancy dinners. Just cold, lonely evenings in a house full of memories she had shattered with her own 2 hands. And me? I focused on work. Expanded into a new state. Met new suppliers. Started building something better for myself. The prenuptial agreement we signed 3 years ago? The one she had signed without a second thought, smiling as she slid the pen across the paper? It was airtight. If one partner committed infidelity, they forfeited everything. No house. No car. No property. No claim to any of my businesses. Not a dime more than what she came into the marriage with, which, frankly, wasn't much. When the court day finally arrived, Christina showed up looking like a ghost. Pale. Thin. Wearing an off-the-rack business suit that didn't fit right. I sat there across the aisle in my best gray suit, calm, collected. When my lawyer submitted the video footage, the room went so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Christina wouldn't even meet my eyes. She kept her head down the whole time while the judge flipped through the paperwork, leaned back, and made his ruling. It didn't take long. Divorce granted. She left with nothing. Not the house. Not the car. Not the jewelry I had given her during our marriage. Not even a cut of the savings she used to brag about to her friends. She left the courtroom in tears, dabbing her face with tissues she kept pulling out of her purse like it was some bottomless pit. I didn't follow her. Didn't say a word. I just shook my lawyer's hand, thanked him for his work, and walked out into the afternoon sun feeling like a free man. Months passed. I heard bits and pieces here and there. Christina found a job as a sales assistant at a department store across town. Minimum wage. Standing on her feet all day, smiling at customers, folding sweaters. She was renting a shabby little one-bedroom apartment in a rundown building not far from where we used to live. No car, she had to take the bus or bum rides off whoever would help her. No more fancy gym memberships. No more designer clothes. No more lavish dinners or spa weekends. Just work, bills, and long nights alone. Meanwhile, I moved forward with my life. At a business meeting about 6 months after the court date, I met Inessa. Tall, kind, smart, not flashy like Christina, but warm, real. We hit it off immediately. Started seeing each other. Took things slow at first, building something honest from the ground up. It wasn't long before I knew she was someone special. A year later, we got engaged. I never planned it, but one afternoon Inessa and I were walking through the big shopping mall downtown, just killing time after lunch, when we passed a jewelry store. I decided to buy her a gift, something small, a token of how much she meant to me. We walked inside, arm in arm, laughing about something silly she had said. And there, standing behind the counter in a cheap black uniform, was Christina. She froze when she saw me. Her smile dropped right off her face. She blinked like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I didn't say a word. Just kept my arm around Inessa's waist and walked up to the counter like it was any other day. Christina cleared her throat and forced a tight, plastic smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded at a necklace in the case. "That one?" I said. She swallowed hard and nodded. She pulled it out with shaky hands and placed it on the velvet mat. I picked it up, fastened it around Inessa's neck, standing close so Christina had no choice but to watch. Inessa beamed up at me, laughing, spinning to look in the mirror. She had no idea the woman behind the counter used to be my wife. Christina watched it all, guilt and regret written all over her face like a billboard. I handed over my card, didn't even flinch at the price. Christina rang it up, her hands fumbling the buttons. When she handed me the bag, she opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. I took the bag, turned to her with a small smile, and said, "Take care of yourself. I hope we never meet again." She stood there, speechless, clutching the edge of the counter like it was the only thing holding her up. Inessa, confused, asked me later in the car, "Who was that?" I shrugged. "Just an old acquaintance." And we drove away, smiling. Free. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's the worst betrayal you've ever experienced from someone you trusted? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.